And welcome on in to the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Karnik. He is Freddie B. The playoffs are upon us. Here we go. So
Oh yeah.
we've got the
Oh no, the
field.
playoffs are here, Adam. You're absolutely right.
And we've got some craziness just going on everywhere. So the field is set. Basically, we knew what we thought it was going to be. All that talk last week about how crazy and bizarre the Pacific Division could be if it wanted to be. And ultimately, we wound up with exactly the way it was all set up.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of, I was kind of bummed out about that, but yeah, scoreboard watching to see, and then the Ducks they won. So then Edmonton, had a slam dunk win, so that everything just fell into place as we thought. But they played up to the last, hour of the season basically until anything was decided. And now I wish, that one of those teams would have lost and maybe the Kings had won since they're down 2-0. But we'll get into that. But
could have made it interesting, but yeah, in the end, we wound up exactly how we thought we would, with Vegas winning the division, Edmonton finishing second, Anaheim third, and the Kings be in the wild card. So for the fact that nothing was set, nothing changed either, and everything else we had set across the playoffs. So now we are here. And before we dive in any further, we do want to thank and acknowledge our sponsors here. We've got, we of course have the Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. I lost my banner for them, so I'll have to get that back. The jerky that's on a whole other planet. You can go to planetjerky.com and place your orders there. To do that, I would highly recommend and encourage you to try the volcanic jalapeno. It is very tasty, very good stuff. Also, we are proud to announce that IE Sports Radio has partnered with Vital Apparel, the brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. When you go to vitalapparel.com, use the promo code IESR at checkout, and you get 15% off of your order there. So we thank them as well. And of course, you can follow along with IE Sports Radio on Twitter, on YouTube, at IE Sports Radio, or also be sure to check out the website, iesportsradio.com. This show is available for you on social media as well. We are on Twitter at IESR Neutral Zone. He is at Freddie B _sports. I am at Adam _Karnik. So let's get caught up. We had the 3 playoff games in the NHL tonight. We've had one go final already. The Flyers, absolutely. I see you repping the Flyers gear tonight. Is that Flyers gear or is that anti-Penguins gear?
No, you know what? I love the Penguins, but I had to throw on the Flyers tonight just because they are so dominant right now in this series. Adam, we thought this series was going to be, going to a game 7, nail biting multiple overtimes, and it's been anything but that. Philly tonight, just continuing that domination. They're up 3-0.
They're up 3-0. I thought this was going to be, we were going to see Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and company just having their, how a light bulb always burns brightest right before it goes out. I thought this was going to be their one last push where there's no way we're letting Philly knock us out of the playoffs. We've got this in us, try to make one last run. And instead, they look old. They look gassed. Philly's the team that wants to move on, and Pittsburgh, it feels like Pittsburgh is more interested in getting in the penalty box than lighting the lamp right now.
That's so uncharacteristic of them, especially all season. They weren't a team that took a lot of penalties, and we're seeing that, frustration kicks in these games as well. So, with everything already amped up, You could take some penalties, especially as if you fall down in a game, just to try to, change the tide. But then you try to set a tone for what's coming up the rest of the series. But for the Penguins right now, though,
Oh, and Freddie, we lost your audio there for a second. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get him reconnected. We still got the video, but we're losing the audio there with Freddie. But yeah, with the Penguins, it has just been there we go. Now we got you back, I think.
Adam, you there?
There we go. Gotcha. Yes. Oh, and now Freddie's saying he can't hear me. Okay. We'll see about getting this cleared up and cleaned up here. Sorry, having
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, got you. Are you able to get up? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. My headphones.
There we go.
Something popped up. I don't know. Anyways, I'm sorry about that. I don't even know where I had left off.
That's all right. We've been surprised with how this Flyers Penguins series has started to this point. It really feels like this would be going in another direction right now.
Yeah, I thought Pittsburgh was going to end up winning this series. I thought it was going to be a long series, and now that they could be going home, which isn't too far, just right down the road from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. Come whenever the next game, I think they play Saturday is going to be game 4 of that series. Let me go back and see.
That sounds right. Yeah, that's
game 4 is going to be Saturday.
Saturday night. Yep, Saturday night in Philly. So it's entirely possible that we could see a sweep in that series. And I would never have expected that one to go in a sweep.
No, I didn't either. And Dan Vladar, what can you say? He's been outstanding in net for Philadelphia. Stopping 28 out of the 30 shots tonight, and that 5-2 win for the Flyers. And they're getting everything. We didn't know, like Adam in our pre-playoff show, we both said we both liked Pittsburgh because of the veteran leadership, and you have Crosby and Malkin and Carlson and Letang. And the Flyers really didn't have much playoff experience at all. And a bunch of younger guys, Jamie Drysdale, Trevor Zegras, and some of those guys that coming in with zero playoff experience in their career. But yeah, it's really turned my head. And this is going to be the quickest series I see that ends. And I think, hopefully, Pittsburgh could make a series out of it. If not, they're going to be going home.
Yeah, it certainly feels right now to this point that this is going to be the first series wrapping up. To your point, for the work in net that the Flyers have had, only 2 even ice goals at this point. Right. The Penguins scored 2 tonight, but both of those came on the power play. The Penguins have not scored without the man advantage since game 1 in this series. So that is impressive. And we got Glenn Ritter joining us in the chat. He's commenting, the Flyers had won their last 3 games in the regular season. The Penguins on the flip side of that, they had lost their last 3 coming in. So that trend is continuing. Obviously some momentum carrying through there.
Pittsburgh had already locked up their playoff spot, and I remember they ended the season, with those 2 games against the Capitals, and in the first game in that matchup against the Capitals, they didn't play any of their starters. They were kind of giving guys rest, where the Flyers weren't taking a night off. They were getting themselves prepared to play every game like it's a playoff game, and that's just carried right over. I think they've dictated every aspect of play on the ice, and I don't think that Pittsburgh has an answer for it right now.
Yeah. Elsewhere going on, we've got 2 games going on right now. We've got up in Edmonton, the Ducks and the Oilers, yet to have a score in that one. We're about 8.5 minutes into regulation on that one. Edmonton coming from behind and taking game one. I'm not surprised that Edmonton is leading in that series, but the Ducks, a strong start in game one there. I don't know that it'll necessarily turn into anything, but still good on the Ducks. And then we've also got the Stars. They were up 2-0. Minnesota got on the board. It is 2-1 with 1 and 40 minutes left in the first period, in what this has got to be, if not the series of the first round, one of the two, one of the top two series of the first round.
Yeah, this series has been awesome. Minnesota came in to Dallas and just run them out of the building, beating them 6-1 in game one. I think the same thing happened to Dallas last year in game one of the series. And the physicalness is what really picked up in game two. We saw bodies, going everywhere. And now, Dallas was able to get back, even the series, take it up to Minnesota. You think Minnesota may have a little bit of an advantage. Then Dallas comes out and scores 2 quick ones tonight. Minnesota getting one here late in the first. So 2-1, it looks like after one. There's a good chance that this game is going to have a lot of goals in it. Jake Ottner was not good in net game one. He did rebound to play a better game two. Jesper Wallstedt, had been pretty solid in net for Minnesota as well. These two teams, in these conference games can just I think as you get deeper in the series, the games are going to get a little bit tighter. We're going to have 1-goal games. We're going to have, maybe a game or two go into overtime, and it's whoever just outlasts the other team, I think, right now. Now, Dallas may have the advantage after winning last game and the way they started tonight. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Oh, yeah, this was I would have thought before this series, it was, you got Jake Ottinger for Dallas. You've got the goaltending tandem there in Minnesota. This should be low scoring, 6-1, 4-2. And we're in only the end of the first period of game three, and it's already 2-1. There are goals happening everywhere in this series. This might be the most high scoring series of the entire first round at this point.
It's definitely, I think that, well, then you talk about, Vegas and Utah. That's also a really good series right now in the Western Conference. But I think this Dallas, Minnesota is the premier series right now in the West.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way right now. And then we do have a couple of PWHL scores going on right now as well. We've got in Seattle right now, the Frost are on top of the Torrent, 1-0 with 7 minutes and change left there. And then the big one over in the PWHL tonight is Ottawa and Boston going on tonight. There was and it looks like
does that clinch it for Ottawa now, Adam?
We do have a final in that one. Ottawa won 2-1, but Ottawa won in overtime. So because the PWHL does the 3-2-1 point system, Ottawa only gets 2 points, and they do not clinch with that. Toronto is 3 points back, and they play each other on Saturday. So with that one coming up, if Toronto wins in regulation, so we'll go through that a little bit more, but for now, suffice to say, we'll go into it a little bit more in depth a little later in the show, but suffice to say, Ottawa, even with the win, they have not clinched. Toronto is still alive. They do not play again until Saturday. That's their final game of the season. Ottawa does not play again until Saturday. That'll be Ottawa's final game. So that will be very critical. That game, the final spot in the PWHL playoffs, will come down to the final game of the regular season between Ottawa and Toronto. So
it looks like I think Toronto would get the tiebreak advantage. I believe they have more wins. So if they win that game in regulation, they both end with 41 points. Toronto's going to be the one that gets that 4th spot in the playoffs.
Yes. Yep. So yeah, it's all going to come down to that final game. We'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit more in the show a little bit later, but wanted to not exclude those scores as well. So we've got the 3 NHL and the 2 PWHL games going on tonight. So we're the first weekend of the NHL playoffs. We've got all the series have started. All have gone now, with the exception of Ducks Oilers. They're playing game 2 right now. Right. Every other series has done to this point. Oilers just scored against the Ducks, by the way, so they're up 1-0 on this one. Overall, it's been incredibly entertaining hockey all the way around. We've seen a little bit of everything. We have seen blowouts. We have seen close games. We have seen a lot of overtime. Carolina, Ottawa, both games. We're seeing overtime there in that one. And then Montreal, Tampa. That series. Oh my goodness sake. That series could very easily be either team up 2-0 on the other. Instead, we've got a 1-1 split. Buffalo and Boston split at 1. Utah getting a win in Vegas last night.
Yeah, big win last night. Yeah.
We've seen some good stuff. We've seen some absolutely crazy things. We saw a goal from the red line last night in Buffalo. Right. We saw a center ice goal. We've seen players decide that now it's the playoffs, so that means literally anything is legal, apparently. I love that, but this is the effing playoffs. No, that
was a legitimate cross check to the
that's still a cross check.
Right,
yeah. Yeah, that doesn't give you carte blanche to just beat somebody up. You can't just play whack-a-mole with them,
right. That was pretty obvious. Yeah. I thought the last couple of nights was great, Adam. These series are really starting to heat up. I love that, we just talked about, before we went on the air here, I think game 2 are very important games of the series because there's so much on the line already. You don't want to go down 2-0 into a series. And if you're the home team, you don't want to be down 2-0 and then have to go on the road. So game 2s just have a lot more physicality, I think. I think the team that maybe have lost game 1, you see them kind of take the body a little bit more. We saw that with Tampa Bay last night. We saw that with the Kings last night. They took the body to Colorado in that game as well. The Vegas series is nasty. The Dallas series is nasty. The Boston-Buffalo series is great as well. There's so much action going on with these series tied. Big games as we swing now. Boston's going to be home for the next couple of games. And honestly, Adam, I think Boston could have been up 2-0 in this series. They were up 4-0, end up winning 4-2 yesterday, and then we're up 4-3. I'm sorry, 3-0 in game 1 and lost that game. 4-3.
It's with Buffalo, the atmosphere has been unbelievable there at KeyBank.
It's been great.
It's been outstanding. It's been terrific support. But yeah, we're seeing a Buffalo team not used to playing in the playoffs, not accustomed to being where they are, and it's shown. It really has shown. Kudos to the Sabres for winning the first game, but right. Buffalo, Boston's really been a better team.
We had this conversation last week. Adam S. brought up that the Sabres, I think, had won their last 3 games, and they were trailing or something like that. They were having to come from behind in all those games, and I said, you can't go into the playoffs playing that same way, and thinking you're going to come back if you get down in these games. Luckily, they did come back from 3-0 in game 1 to win that game. But last night, they were down 4-0. Terrible goaltending. Just a bad game for the Sabres. Something that I really haven't seen them play that bad of hockey, in 4 or 5 months. And I think Boston, may have a little bit of advantage now, evening up that series, and now they're going to play at home in Boston, and that crowd is going to be nuts times 5, I think, of what we saw in Buffalo. Obviously, that was awesome. I love Josh Allen banging the drum last night and then pulling a beer out of his pocket and shotgunning a beer. That was awesome. That's what you wanted to see. That's what we had talked about. We want to see this in Buffalo. Buffalo deserves this. The fans deserve something like this. And that was a raucous building. That series is fantastic. So much good stuff in that one. But yeah, Boston, Jeremy Swayman playing pretty good in net. He's playing better than the Buffalo goalie at this point. I don't know who they start game 3. That may be something that is in question. Do they go with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, or do they switch it and go with Alex Lyon? I'm interested to see who Buffalo throws in game 3.
You have to have a short leash in series like this, even though a 7-game series is a quote unquote long series.
It is, yeah.
Luukkonen has not looked comfortable at all through the first 2 games. Luukkonen, you're not here without Luukkonen. I don't think that's too harebrained of me to say with Buffalo. If Luukkonen's not in net all season long, the Sabres aren't where they are. At the same time, you can't wait. If you wait too long to make the change, it won't do anything for you. I would absolutely consider making a change going into game 3. And there's nothing to say that you can't go back to Luukkonen when you get back to, get through these next 2 games, get back to Buffalo, and then go back to Luukkonen. You can certainly do that. That's an option available to you, but Luukkonen has not looked sharp. He has really struggled. He's been one of my bigger disappointments so far.
I agree.
It's just frustrating to this point. If you're a Buffalo fan, if you're Adam S., for example, and just seeing how that's not, we didn't think this was where the hole was going to be. On the other hand, Swayman's been excellent in net for Boston. Boston as a whole has played very well, and that's part of why, even though the series is tied, you feel a lot better about Boston's chances to get things done. There'll be a game, you're going to be going back to Buffalo. It's a question of, is it going to be tied at 2, or is Boston going to be up 3-1? I don't see Buffalo being up 3-1 at this point heading into game 5.
I think they could probably, they may not sweep, but I think split this series. I think we go back to Buffalo for game 5 with this knotted up at 2. This is a slugfest. But again, Buffalo cannot allow the Bruins to jump out to an early multiple goal lead, because it's going to bite you in the ass. And then it's like the boy who cried wolf or something like that. You're able, okay, we come back, we take care of it, we can win these games. Now, after a while, you keep doing that, nobody's going to be there to support you. You're done. And Boston's going to smell that blood in the water. And just, I think they're going to really try to attack Buffalo. Buffalo needs for game 3 tomorrow to come out and score the first goal of the game. That is key, I think, for the Buffaloes, maybe taking advantage of this series back to their side.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I would agree wholeheartedly with that. Looking at some of the other series here real quickly, one that has jumped out at me. We talked about Carolina being a prime team to get upset in the first round, and a big reason that you and I both keyed in on and thought would be a problem was going to be Freddie Anderson in net for Carolina. And all he does is then game 1 in that series against Ottawa, he goes and pitches a shutout. He makes all 22 saves and pitches the shutout then in game 1. And then in game 2, Carolina wins it in overtime 3-2. And the Hurricanes they're looking like the Hurricanes again.
He made another 37 saves in last night's game as well. This is a lot closer than the score of game 1 indicated. Very tight game. I thought this was going to be a series that might be a surprise. And right now, Carolina is holding up their end of the bargain, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. These games are not pretty. They could have won that game earlier. And then you see Jordan Martin Hook. Well, they scored the goal. It's taken away in overtime. Then Jordan Martin Hook is awarded the penalty shot. He goes and misses his opportunity. And then in the second overtime, he is the one who ended up getting the game winner. So it all came out in their end at the end. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really good crowd. Again, every time you go into these playoff towns like Ottawa, the fans are going to be nuts. They crave this. They haven't really had much success up there since they've been back in the NHL. Just that one Stanley Cup appearance against the Ducks. Ottawa, I think, is going to come out. They're going to take the body. I expect them to be very physical to start game 3. I think Ottawa takes game 3, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe they can even it up, or does Carolina take care of business? They come back and close it out at home. So, yeah, Freddie Anderson, though, that was our biggest question mark, and he is delivering on his end of the bargain right now.
He's playing spectacular. Is that whole sequence of the delayed offsides, penalty shot. I had a brief conversation with my sister over the weekend. She was watching the Seattle Torrent game over the weekend, and they had a bizarre instance of rules lawyering. That's the best way to put it. And she was, okay, you're going to have to explain this one to me. And I said, all right, well, the first thing you have to understand is in hockey, basically, we don't always think things out and be prepared for every contingency. A lot of times the refs just have to make it up on the fly. And the instance she was referring to was Seattle had an instance where there was a player breaking down on the ice, a clear breakaway shot, but didn't actually get a shot off before being penalized. Well, the referee assigned a penalty shot, but the team that committed the penalty didn't have a goalie in net at the time. So they said, you know what? It just counts. You don't have to bother taking the penalty shot because there wasn't a goalie in there.
I've seen that before where they've been awarded a goal for that when a net is pulled, and they didn't even have to shoot the puck, and they still awarded it. So
it's just it's
rare that you see that though, but it happens. Yeah,
very, very rare. But that kind of thing was going on, running through my head as we have the delayed offsides. Taking away a goal, but then you still get to shoot a penalty shot because, well, even though you shouldn't have had possession of the puck, you did, and you got penalized while you were trying to shoot. So, the delayed offsides. I don't want to get us too into the weeds on this. That's a rule. Suffice to say, that to me is a rule that I feel needs some revision. There needs to be some kind of a time element added to that ruling where it's, look, if the puck winds up in possession for more than, make up a number, 10 seconds before you attempt a shot, then you just, you know what? It doesn't happen.
Play continues.
Yeah. Play just continues. It doesn't matter that if you want there to be a delayed offsides call, then you've got to give up a shot in X amount of time.
We'll pocket. I like that. That's a possibility because you can have full possession and have a cycle going for a good minute, get a goal, and then the other team decides to challenge because they saw that the initial play that brought the puck into the zone was offside. You just played a minute of hockey. That's like what happened. You can get somebody to get injured, have a high stick to the face, something like that during that time. The penalty is still going. They're still going to enforce a penalty if there is one made. So if there's like a high sticking call, they're going to enforce that, even though the play didn't count. Yeah, it's crazy.
The whole point of offsides is you're supposed to, it's to prevent cherry picking. It's, hey, our defense wasn't able to get down there and cover. Well, if the defense has been able to get down there and cover, that just defeats the whole point. It's all right. Well, you were able to get down and cover. So, like I said, we should table it and have a little bit longer conversation on it later. Suffice to say, that's a rule that to me could use some tweaking in the off season.
Hey, Adam, let's finish up with the Eastern Conference and talk about that Buffalo.
Absolutely.
No, I'm sorry, not Buffalo. Tampa Bay and Montreal series. Have you been able to catch any of these games?
I have been able to catch them, but I have been keeping my eyes on them all and throughout and everything. This to me, of the first round, this is the series so far. This has been the pièce de résistance as far as I am concerned. Montreal is playing with its hair on fire. You know, these guys got a taste of the postseason last year, didn't like getting knocked out as quickly as they did, and they're ready to make their mark. Yeah. With this series now returning home to Montreal, Bell Center is going to be going absolutely nuts.
Oh, definitely.
These Canadians look good. They look really good. Tampa Bay was my pick to win the Prince of Wales.
Mine is.
I like the Canadians in this series. I like the way they're playing, and just having both games wind up in overtime.
Yeah.
This series could be in any direction. It is so appropriate that it is split at 1 after 2.
Yeah, it's been a really good series. Yesterday, really, in that first period, there was about a 5 or 6 minute span of game time when there were all those penalties being called, and Montreal, they didn't back down. Tampa Bay's the toughest team in the league, or the most penalized team in the league, you can say. They led the National Hockey League in penalty minutes this year. They're rough. They're tough. And Montreal stood up there with them. I mean, game 1, you get the hat trick by Juraj Slafkovsky. Fantastic for him to do that. They win that game in overtime. This game 2, Montreal lead going into the third period. Kucherov scores about halfway through. Then at the end, towards the end of the third period, Scott Sabourin takes a penalty, and John Cooper, he basically lost. I mean, you could just see the disdain and disgust in his face. Like, you got to be kidding me right now. I've got Scott Sabourin on the ice with less than 3 minutes to go in this game, and he takes a penalty. Could have jeopardized the series. Thank goodness for Tampa Bay, it didn't. They were able to kill the penalty and get a J.J. Moser game-winning goal in overtime. But very good series. Tampa Bay, very tough. I mean, Vasilevsky's got to be a lot better. Jakub Dobeš is playing very good on his end of the ice for Montreal. I think we can come away with each team picking up a game up in Montreal, and then we make this a best of 3.
Yeah.
I think this series, I think, is going to go 6 or
minimum
6 or 7, right?
Yeah, minimum 6 out of this series. They play game 3 Friday night in Montreal, 7:00 Eastern time, 4:00 out in the Pacific. Yeah,
I picked Tampa Bay to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah, I think I did too. Now that I think about it,
or one of us did. We both had him there against Colorado. I think. I don't remember.
You had him there against Colorado. I had him there against Vegas. But
Vegas,
the point is, we both had him making it, and they might not get out of the first round. And if they don't, it's going to be because Montreal just played an incredible series. We've seen just outstanding hockey. Also, Brandon Hagel is playing out of his mind now for Tampa Bay as well. That as a Blackhawks fan, I'm looking at it and I'm just, I realize why, but man, they had a good one there that they traded away. But good stuff going on.
See, when Hagel knocked down Slafkovsky in the fight last night, and he's skating back and just like keeping it low, and then he's putting him to sleep. And that's what you love to see, the trash talking. I mean, there's a scrum after every whistle. You take a game that's normally played now with the speed of the game and everything, probably 2.5 hours. These games are going well beyond 3 hours, 3.5. And then if you take it to overtime, I mean,
you're
looking at a 4-hour plus game.
you go to double overtime and some of these things. This is the one thing. This is where I will come in defense of the current playoff format, because I know I'm on an island by saying this, and I understand everybody's arguments of why this playoff format is not ideal, and I get it, and I understand all of it. But this is where I'll come in defense of it by keeping in the divisions for the first round. This is where you see the bad blood. This is where you see we played these games 5 times in the regular season, and now we got to do a best of 7 against these. I got beef against this guy from 4 months ago, and it's just added in all the 4 times we saw him since. I'm gonna take it to that guy. Remember what happened in game 3 in the regular season? This is where you see the advantage of this, is even in round 1 of a playoff series, you're seeing the intensity and the veracity and just the sheer, I don't like you. And
the hatred is real.
Exactly. It's very real. It's sports hate coming from a genuine place. And you can't fake that. You can't simulate that. So that's the one thing I'll say in defense of this playoff format, is it does allow for this theater. You would not be having this theater, for example. You wouldn't be having 11 guys in the box in
line
like
brawls
we had,
and
line brawls,
and we're talking like star players too. And
the
stars are the ones that are stepping up. They're the ones that are doing this.
What was it? The very first game of the playoffs, they dropped the puck, and the first thing that happened was a fight. In Senators Hurricanes, they dropped the puck, and instantly it was okay. Here goes Kachuk. We got to have this. You would not be having this if it was, say, Hurricanes and who would the 8th seed, who was the last team to get in out of the East. It was Ottawa. Ottawa. But you wouldn't be having the Pittsburgh Phillies series that we're having. You wouldn't be having that if it was Pittsburgh Buffalo, for example. It wouldn't be quite the same. So that's the one thing I'll say defensively.
Perfectly matched up for each round. And we're seeing that, if you want to switch to the West.
Yes.
Colorado and the Kings. Colorado being the number 1 team in the NHL, President's Trophies winner. These games have been close, Adam. A 2-1 win for Colorado game 1. Kings are up 1-0 yesterday, give up a goal in the last 3 minutes to tie it, and then they lose in overtime. So both games have been tight, both 2-1 Avalanche wins. Kings needed that one desperately last night. I think they're, I don't think they're going to get it done winning both games in LA, possibly one. I think this series is going to be short. However, if the Kings could figure out how to score 5-on-5, which they've only scored 1 goal 5-on-5 on Colorado the entire season, both playoffs and regular season in their 3 matchups there, that's a problem. And you got to be able to get scoring from everywhere. They've been able to score a power play goal in all 5 games they played against Colorado this year, but they cannot score on 5-on-5. So I think that's going to hurt them. They maybe add a little bit of scoring if you can, activate Andrei Skubmenko, maybe give a punch. But the 4th line played great last night. They kept the Avalanche dudes in check. They were banging bodies all night long. Really good series. It's just tight. It's the kind of hockey that the Kings play. And remember, Colorado, although they were the number 1 offensive team in the league, they were also the number 1 defensive team. So they play a tight defensive game as well. So not that up and down, a lot of goals in that series, just 2-1 games. But I think the Kings, they have a chance. Possibly they gotta win game 3. It's a must.
Yeah, I would agree. Game 3, this game 3 coming up.
There were so many chances last
Kings.
night too. They could have won that, and we would be talking about, hey, there's a possibility that we could see an upset in this series.
Yeah,
there still could be. I just it's very slim. I've seen them come back from 3-0 in the first round against San Jose in 2014 when they went on to win the cup. I don't see that same kind of thing out of this year's team, unfortunately.
No. Game 3 is of paramount importance to the Kings. If they want any shot of doing anything in this series, they must win tomorrow night. Scott Wedgwood has been outstanding in net, 48 saves on 50 shots. Like you said, Anton
Forsberg as well has been outstanding. If he's not making those saves he made last night, that game would have ended, and Colorado may have won that in regulation. He's been outstanding. I'm glad that they made the choice to start him in the playoffs. He was the hotter goalie going in, and we'll see. They've got to be able to score a 5-on-5 goal. That's key. You have to.
Yeah, Artemi Panarin paying a little bit of dividends for the Kings so
both
far
goals.
to this point. Yeah, both goals, both coming on the power play. But yeah, you've got to figure out how to score 5-on-5, and you've got to activate somebody. It can't just be Panarin being the totality of the offense there. And then one last series in the West before we turn the page on it here. Vegas, Utah. There's tied at 1 after 2 games. Utah now with the home ice advantage. I mean, the Central on the whole has been the better division than the Pacific, but do we have a chance at an upset here, or is this all right? Utah got it to 1.
No, I think there's a 100% legitimate chance of an upset in this. And if you think about it, it's not really. It's an upset based on the seeding, not the upset based on where each team finished, points wise.
Right.
They were right neck and neck right there. Utah actually, better than Vegas was in the regular season. Utah is a tough team. They scored game 1 early. Vegas tied it. Utah came back, went up 2-1, end up losing that game 4-2, gave up some late goals. But then yesterday's game, Utah kind of dictated how everything went again. They're playing really good hockey. Utah has never experienced NHL playoff hockey. Salt Lake City is in for a treat, and I think the fans are going to be there out in full force. And I think Utah has a legitimate chance of winning at least one of these games, if not both games. And then we're talking, possible series win. I think it could happen. I mean, what do you think, Adam? Have you been able to catch any of it?
I haven't been able to catch any of it other than, just keeping myself as much as I can, just watching the highlights kind of a thing with this series. It's a little late. They dropped the puck a little late out there, but
I know
9:30 Friday night. So I'll have the opportunity, get
big
the kiddos,
Clayton Keller goal last night to win
but,
that. And I know this second half of the Western bracket, the Utah, Vegas, and Edmonton and Anaheim, that's an easy route. I think one of those 4 teams is it going to be in the conference final. It's not going to be as tough as like a Colorado and then having to get through Dallas and Minnesota. Utah can get past Vegas. Then they're in the conversation of they can beat Edmonton. They can definitely beat Anaheim.
Oh, absolutely.
We may see them in the conference final.
Yeah, we could see Colorado, Utah, in the Western Conference final. That would not be good. Not be out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, this is Friday night, the first ever playoff hockey game in the state of Utah.
Yes.
There'll be obviously the Mammoth fans will show up in great support. Vegas to Salt Lake. That is a really short flight. That is a really quick and easy flight.
A 40-minute flight. Yeah.
You're going to see Vegas fans there. You're going to see that building is going to be rocking. It's going to be jumping. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. They've done a great job in Utah in making that a fun hockey destination. And now, yeah, they do get to be rewarded and have some really good high quality hockey happening over this weekend. Game 3 Friday night. Game 4 is all the way going to be Monday. So they play Friday, and then they've got the weekend actually off. So it'll be Monday.
Wow, they get 2 nights off and then another 2 nights off in between games. That's kind of convenient.
Yeah, that's
some of the other teams are playing every other night, and they played last night, get tonight and tomorrow off, and then they play game 3 Friday, and they don't play again until Monday. So yeah, only 1 game in 5 days between those. An interesting schedule, Cork. There may have been something with the arena there in Utah. There could have been something there with Delta Arena. There in Utah, there could have been something there for scheduling. I'd have to look at it a little closer there to know, but yeah, only 1 game in 5 nights there between that series. So, all right, well, Ducks ended up tying that game halfway through that first period, so they're 1-1 at
1-1. And Stars and Wild are tied at 2 right now, basically halfway through the game. Wild about to go on the power play. So some good stuff going on in the other 2 series. Well, let's take a quick break for ourselves. And then when we come back, we'll get you caught up on the PWHL as well, and get you caught up and set the groundwork for Saturday's effectively a playoff game there going on in Ottawa between the Charge and the Scepters. This is the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this. IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iSportsRadio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back out into the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam and Freddie back here with you on this Wednesday night playoff edition of the show. We've been talking all NHL playoffs to this point, but things are coming down to the wire in the PWHL as well. The regular season getting ready to wrap up. 3 of the 4 playoff spots are already clinched. The Montreal Victoire have clinched. The Boston Fleet have also clinched a playoff spot. The 2 of them are duking it out for the top seed overall, which, remember, in the PWHL, the number 1 seed then gets to pick its own first round opponent, but amongst the 3rd and 4th seeds. The defending champion Minnesota Frost are in. They will be the 3 seed. Then the 4 spot is the only spot remaining. Right now, Ottawa has the inside track on it. They had an opportunity to clinch and seal the final playoff spot had they won in regulation tonight. However, Boston managed to, at the very least, force overtime in the game. Ottawa did get the winner in overtime. Boston actually led 1-0 heading into the 3rd period. Abby Newhook, her 7th goal of the season, and then Rebecca Leslie tied it for Ottawa in the 3rd before Brianne Jenner got her 12th of the season, 3 minutes and 46 seconds into overtime to get the win. That means Ottawa only got 2 points in the standings tonight, because remember, the PWHL does the 3-2-1 point standings system. Which personally I like. I would have no problems with the NHL adopting that.
It puts more emphasis on winning the game.
Winning in regulation.
Yeah,
it does reward you for winning in regulation. But as a result, Ottawa only gets 2 points. So they are just 3 points in front of the Toronto Scepters, and they play each other on Saturday. There are all 8 teams are in action on Saturday. You've got the other ones. The biggest ones of note are Montreal is playing Seattle and Boston is playing New York.
Yeah, that'll
be for the top spot. Yep. The top spot there, which if Montreal wins in regulation, then they're guaranteed the top spot. Otherwise, then you get into some tiebreaker scenarios there for the top spot. So, and then of course, Toronto versus Ottawa, the massive one, that is essentially a playoff game. So let's get into this here. What are the tiebreaker scenarios in the PWHL? The first and most obvious, obviously, is if you have the higher number of points gets the job done. But if you've got the same number of points, your first one is your regulation wins. That's easy for Ottawa and Toronto. If Toronto wins in regulation on Saturday, that would be the Scepters' 11th regulation win. Right. Ottawa's only got 8. So that's how Toronto gets in. If the game goes to overtime in any fashion, Ottawa clinches the final playoff spot. It doesn't matter then who wins the game going into that one.
I mean, you could have a scenario if Boston wins their game in regulation, that would give them 62 points. In Montreal, they do play Seattle, who's the worst team in the league. If Montreal only won that game in overtime, both teams would have 62 points. Both teams would have 16 regulation wins.
Yes. So then the next tiebreaker at that point is you look at total wins. So that is regulation and overtime, which at this point
it would be Montreal.
It would be Montreal. I was just working on getting that pulled up. So thank you. Yep. So yes. So Montreal, with a win of any kind against Seattle, will clinch the top spot. A loss in overtime, and then also a Boston regulation win would give the Fleet, or even an overtime win at that point. So an overtime loss plus a Boston victory gives Boston home ice throughout, and the ability to then pick their first round opponent.
Yeah, I think Montreal is going to be the one that comes out. They ended up, up to this point, been one of the best teams all season. I mean, Boston started out the season and looked like they were going to blaze through like a record-setting season, and then they kind of stumbled. Montreal was able to catch them. You want to finish number one in this bracket because you don't want to play Boston, who's the second best team in the league, and you definitely don't want to play Minnesota, who has won the championship. So
both years,
yeah. A lot of importance to finish number one because you're going to be playing a team, obviously the worst of the four, but a team that's fighting to just get into the playoffs. I'd rather have that, and I think Montreal is going to be the one that comes away with that. Now, Adam, how long are the series in the playoffs? Are they best of 3, best of 5?
PWHL does best of 5 for their playoff series. So both the semifinals and the Walter Cup finals will be best of 5 series. A word of note too, you brought up that Seattle is the worst team overall in the standings. And yes, that's correct, but don't think that Seattle's just going to roll over and keel over, because the PWHL uses what they call the gold plan to determine who gets the first overall pick. You have to win the first overall pick. Effectively, Seattle with a win, with a regulation win against Montreal, would guarantee for itself the first overall pick. A regulation loss, and that might not happen. They could potentially, because they would lose gold plan points. What the PWHL does is, once you are eliminated from playoff contention, which at this point Seattle, Vancouver, and the New York Sirens have all been eliminated, every game you play after that, any points you get in the standings, obviously they go in the standings, but they also go into the gold plan points, and whoever has the most gold plan points at the end of the season, that's who actually then gets the number one overall pick.
Can you imagine, even think if the NHL would do something like that? So you think like Vancouver's going to tank the season, they're going to get the number one pick most likely because it's a lottery. But once you've been eliminated, if you have the best record or gained the most points, you don't have to be the absolute worst team. You just have to be the best non-playoff qualifying team, right? And then,
but it's not necessarily the best team that doesn't qualify, because you don't start earning the points in the gold plan until you're eliminated.
Okay.
So the longer you're alive, the harder it is to gain those points. So, like, for example, neither Ottawa nor Toronto will get any gold point plans.
Right.
Points,
okay.
Because they're alive right up until the last day. And New York only got eliminated last night in their game. So they'll only have the opportunity to earn points, to earn any gold plan points in their final game. So they'll only at most finish with 3. So it's not just having the best record. It's how many games do you win after you got eliminated.
Got it. Okay. So, it adds a little element to it. I like it. A little spiciness.
Yeah.
Something to play for. You don't want to finish tanking the rest of the season. And, say it could have been a battle between like the Rangers and Toronto and, Vancouver. Those 3 teams could have been battling, and whoever had the most gold points. I like that idea. I think maybe that's something that the NHL could toss around, possibly. I don't know how if they buy it, but it gives those teams something to play for at the end of the season. Vancouver was really good at the end of this season. They were beating a lot of teams and keeping teams off from clinching playoff spots. So they could have definitely ended up getting that first number 1 overall pick.
Yep. So as it sits right now in the gold plan point standings, right now in the PWHL, the Vancouver Golden Eyes currently sit atop it. They've got 3 points. They've won their only game to this point since getting eliminated on April 18th. Seattle has 1 point in the gold plan standings. They've been eliminated. They got eliminated on the 14th. They've since lost a game in overtime. They just tied it against Minnesota. So with a regulation win tonight, they would jump in front and then be in the driver's seat. New York only got eliminated last night, so they have accumulated no points. They would have to hope for Vancouver to obtain no more points, Seattle to not get above 3 if they want any shot of getting the number 1 overall pick at this point. But yeah, it's a neat way of doing it. It's a different way of doing it. I like it. It keeps the teams, because let's face it, tanking happens more at the management level than at the player level. The players, if you're putting them out on the ice, they want to win. This is a way to incentivize to continue to play your best players. Unless somebody's truly hurt, then of course, back them off. But also then as fans, you don't have to be conflicted about cheering for a loss or something like that. It's we want to win these games because that's how we then get the number 1 overall pick. So
I like it.
So yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It also then means that the Montreal-Seattle game on Saturday, Montreal has to go in and put a good faith effort in winning that game. They can't just go in and expect to steamroll a Seattle team that has nothing to play for, because they have something to play for as a result.
Yep.
So it's a good plan. It's a good plan. It's a good system. We will absolutely then next week we'll be getting you set up for the PWHL playoffs as well. We'll have that to go over. They don't as of yet have the dates set, I don't think, for when the semifinals will start, but we'll let you know as they announce and get all that stuff going too. All right, that is going to do it. All right, so as we sound the horn on this Wednesday night edition of the Neutral Zone, want to shout out and say thank you again to each and every one of our sponsors. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Be sure to go to planetjerky.net to place your order. They still offer free shipping on all orders of $50 and above. Thank you again also to Vital Apparel, the brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. When you go to vitalapparel.com, use the promo code IESR. You get 15% off of your order there. And of course, you've got IE Sports Radio. You can follow along on Twitter, on YouTube at IE Sports Radio. This show is also available for you on Twitter as well. We are at IESR Neutral Zone. He is at Freddie B_sports. I am at Adam Karnik. You can follow along and hit us up there as well. Thank you for Glenn Ritter for hanging out with us in the chat room tonight as he was keeping an eye on us and also the Wild as they have tied the Stars with under 5 minutes to go in the second period. That game all knotted up at 2. That's being a good series. Oh, that's being a good series there. Thank you also to everyone that watched the show live tonight across Twitter and YouTube. We thank you very much for your support. We'll be right back here next week. Hopefully a little earlier. Sorry for the delayed start tonight. Hopefully we'll be a little bit closer to on time next week. Until then, I am Adam. He is Freddie. Catch us next week. Everybody have a great time. Enjoy the hockey. We will see you next time.